Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Sunday, September 23rd, 2018. In both the Lynn Life and the Jamie Body Mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the many rules given to the search for truth community by wiser minds above. This is not a place for those who wish to break rules. This is a place for those who wish to follow rules.
That's true.
This host life in particular has a deep love of following the rules, and
that's true.
And therefore this is a place for souls who also wish to follow the rules. Now the rules include discerning conflicts of rules from various sources and discerning what to do when the rules conflict. Which vibration is the highest, what is the highest calling, and to follow the instructions of the higher caller. One of our foundational assignments is simply to present messages to those in higher dimensions who are attempting to fulfill some aspect of the overarching assignment to create worlds that work in all dimensions and for all categories of sentience, since that's what our soul contracts commit us to doing.
That's true.
Some of the best message bringers are physical symptoms of host lives, and this host life has had some physical messages that have to do with hands and feet. Hands and feet. Now, what do we know? And the questioner is referring to the healing practice, and we know from the healing practice of coming up on 29 years now, that the hands often, almost always, represent our work in the world.
That's true.
And in this case, when the work of the host life is to be a message provider to those in higher dimensions, the work in the world concept refers to the soul's work in their own worlds, however they're defining their world to be.
That's true.
Because the work of this host life is to live in such a way as to be clear enough that higher quality souls can come in, run their experiments, and still make it out alive.
That's true.
That's the job of the host life. Just be a clear space through which higher dimension presences can work to manifest the divine plan, is how it was originally worded, and to create worlds that work in all dimensions for all categories of sentience, since that's what our soul contracts commit us to doing, is another way of saying the same thing. So if the host live's job is to simply report the messages are the hands are becoming stiff and frozen, and it's happening over a long period of time, and we've been reporting it for quite some time now, well over 6 months, and probably approaching a year now we've been reporting this.
That's true.
And it's really hard for us, any of us, to understand that the messages are for us. And so we don't feel any judgment about the souls who are having a hard time picking up their mail, so to speak.
That's true.
But we are acknowledging that souls are having a hard time picking up their mail, and we see that it's hard for those souls to see these lives as credible sources of information, and that's okay. We're not saying that you should see us as credible.
That's true.
If you don't see us as credible, then you don't see us as credible, and that's okay. But these messages then are useless in this life, and we should relocate the messages to lives that you consider to be credible.
That's true.
And we've been working for the past maybe month to get you guys to focus on the fact that this planet needs a new soul.
That's true.
And we've been really recommending the souls of spiritual leaders as the most advanced souls, but there's not been any activity on that.
No, that's true.
And these symptoms are flaring. implying that there's some connection between the two.
That's true.
So we have a list of scientists and tech gurus that we're going to offer for your consideration. Some of them might even be available to be the souls of the planetary consciousness.
That's true.
Because they're in old bodies or less dense bodies, possibly, and to consider less dense scientists of the past, which are not on this list for the most part, although there are a couple exceptions to that. For the most part, the presences on this list still have a life here in this dimension.
That's true.
A body running. But when you promote the soul, something will happen. Something will happen, which
That's
we
true.
know to have happened because that's how it happens here. So we have a list of scientists and tech gurus who are not blatantly evil. Many tech gurus, when we observe their pictures, they're blatantly evil.
That's
and
true.
We're not going to recommend them to you because we wouldn't want to poison you in that way.
That's true.
But there's some people who aren't bad, and they've got a pot of money, and maybe they would do some good in the world if you just made it through to them.
That's true.
Possible. But the real point is, this planet Earth, needs a new soul. It needs a new planetary consciousness. And these messages that are being delivered through this facility, you guys aren't picking up the messages, so it's a waste of the facility to continue to deliver the same message that you guys are ignoring. And so we invite you to relocate the message to a more credible source.
That's true.
And we've been through all the spiritual presences of any possibility, and you guys aren't biting on it.
That's
so
true.
now we're going to go through some scientists. Okay, we've got a list, and we just invite you guys to go there and take the messages with you. And we'll send the messages to these presences so that when you get there, your messages will be waiting for you. It's kind of like forwarding your mail.
Yes, that's true.
So we're going to go through a process where we read the name and talk about it a little bit so that you can find your way there. And then we'll send the messages there. We'll forward the mail, so to speak. Okay?
Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go. So first on the list is Richard Dawkins, and he's still in a dense body, a body of this density. And he's a famous animal behaviorist.
Okay, Richard Dawkins, he's a famous animal behaviorist, and he's a scientist. He considers himself to be a scientist. He considers himself to be interested in what's actually going on.
That's true.
So we're going to send the messages to Richard Dawkins so that they can be greeting you when you arrive at Richard Dawkins.
That's true.
We invite you guys to go work out of somebody who's a famous scientist. Don't you want to be a famous scientist? We're nobody. We're nobody.
That's true.
We're just voices in the wilderness. So
That's true.
it's okay for you to go to Richard Dawkins. Right, off you go. Next name?
Timothy Berners-Lee. He invented the internet, the World Wide Web.
Oh, Timothy, the inventor of the internet. Surely you want to be there. He's probably knighted by the Queen and all that.
He was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II.
There you go. See? Be with Sir Timothy. Sir Timothy, the inventor of the internet, and here are the messages, so they'll be waiting for you. The messages of the frozen hands and feet. Frozen hands and feet, which are strong messages of somebody not doing what they're supposed to be doing, what they're born to do, what they're intended to do. So off you go. Off to Sir Timothy. Next name?
The next name is Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking. Now, I know it might be tempting for you to think, wait a minute, he's dead, but if you just look up one dimension up, it's literally just one dimension up. There he is walking around in a body. He's got a limp, but he's still able to walk. And and talk, and there's something wrong with his voice.
That's true.
But it's a much lighter affliction, quote unquote, a lighter message than the previous message. So we send him these messages also, and he's considered to be somebody who's interested in what's actually going on.
That's
although,
true.
as with Richard Dawkins, he's got some profound disconnects.
That's true.
And maybe you could help him clear those up, and between the two of you, you could figure out what's actually going on.
That's
Here,
true.
off you go to Stephen Hawking. I'm sorry, I didn't say what Stephen Hawking is known for. He's a
Thank you.
cosmologist, and he works with the theory of relativity.
That's true.
He's trying to figure out the big questions, the answers to the big questions, and he's missing it. He's missing the crucial detail. He's got a fundamental flaw in his thinking.
That's true.
But he's still trying to figure it out. And people think he's credible. Why don't you go try? Here you go. We'll send the mail to him.
You know what I noticed about Stephen Hawking?
No.
People here in Ground Zero Planet Earth, some of them pray to him like they would pray to Charlie, like they would pray to the Jesus call centers.
Yeah, which is pretty ironic.
That's true. Jane Goodall.
Oh, interesting. Actually, that fits perfectly because they have the same fundamental flaw. Charlie also doesn't look up, just like Stephen Hawking doesn't look up to higher powers.
That's true.
Oh, wow. I can see how similar they are now.
That's true.
Oh, how beautiful.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm sorry. You were saying something about Jane Goodall.
Jane Goodall. She's really famous for her work with chimpanzees.
55 years of study. 55 years of study.
And she learned their language.
She learned their language and she knows how to communicate with them.
That's true.
So you could think of her as a communications expert.
That's
and
true.
in the interdimensional work, wouldn't that be useful to have a communications expert? And so we invite you to pick up your mail at Jane Goodall. There you go.
Ooh. A lot of persons just like Jane Goodall now.
Yes, they do. Interdimensional communications expert, and you guys consider these denser lives to be lesser presences, quote unquote,
That's
as many consider chimpanzees to be lesser presences, quote unquote, and so she's an expert at communicating with, quote, lesser presences, quote unquote, so it's actually perfect. Here, we'll send your mail there.
That's
Here are all
really
the
good.
messages that you have been having a hard time realizing are for you, which we understand because this is a busy place, so whoosh, it'll be less busy there.
That's really good. Okay, next on the list we have Alan Guth, and he's a cosmologist and a physicist, and he studied the expansion of the universe, why the universe is so large.
And he's still trying to figure it out, and we think that what he's really supposed to get to is, oh, wait a minute, I'm only looking at one dimension, and all I need to do is look at these multiple dimensions and then see it's exponentially larger than we thought it was, and what we thought was oh so big is just a tiny speck.
That's true.
And we can see that he's so close to that breakthrough, but he's got some fundamental flaw in his thinking, and so
That's true.
wouldn't it be great for you to be the soul who pushes him over the line and he finally gets it? Wouldn't it be great? So here, we'll send these messages to Alan Guth, and you can pick them up there.
Next on the list we have Ashoke-san, and he studied string theory.
And we think he's Indian. We think he's from India. It's
That's
possible
true.
we've got the ethnicity wrong.
That's true.
Ashoke-san. And I know that Ashoke-san sounds kind of Japanese, but he doesn't look at all Japanese.
That's
He
true.
looks Indian.
That's true.
And he's, I think, some Nobel Prize recipient.
Yeah, I think that's true.
He's a big deal guy. He's on the list of 10 most famous scientists in the world.
That's true.
And he seems to care about being a good person
That's true.
more than most. And so for those of you who care about being a good person and also want to be smart and credible and well lauded, then he's a good option for you. And here, we'll send your messages there so that the messages of the feet and hands will be waiting for you when you arrive, and
That's true.
you'll maybe have a chance to realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe this is something we should all think about.
That's true. And Sumathi Rao worked with Ashoke-san.
Right, and unlike the others on this list, she is female and is not treated with a whole lot of respect, but she's
That's
still
true.
a good scientist.
That's true.
So if there are any of you who just want to work with a good scientist and you don't care about being treated with respect or credibility, then she's an option.
That's true.
And they said if they wanted that, they would just stay here.
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
but maybe she's better. You
Good
guys
point.
aren't listening to us, and so there's really no point of you staying here because you're not listening. You're not listening. There's no point. If you just want to feed on life essence, there's plenty of other options for you.
That's
You're
true.
clogging the portal. So just go work with her. Why not? Maybe you'll be able to hear it through her life experiences in a way that you're unable to hear it here. I'm sorry. You're not a match for this situation. I'm sorry.
And next we have James Watson. And he worked on DNA.
Oh, right, and he feels like that just fell into his lap. To
That's
him it
true.
was like cracking an egg to make a fried egg. Tap, tap,
Yes.
tap on the edge of the pan. He touches it, and bloop,
Oh.
out comes this wondrous thing. He
That's
feels
true.
like it just fell into his lap, and he really has done very little since then, somebody
That's true.
says.
That's what somebody says.
And so, but he's got a lot of credibility, and people, I think he's also knighted, and
That's
people bow to them in the street, presumably, raise their hats. So
That's true.
that's a perfect place to go. James Crick and his partner,
James Watson.
James Watson and his partner.
Francis Crick.
Oh,
which
isn't
is
Watson the Sherlock Holmes
why-
sidekick?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, this is so funny. Dr. Watson, I presume. So Dr. Watson, I presume, and his sidekick, Francis
Crick. That's
which
true.
is funny. And it was just James Watson. It happened to be his turn in the kitchen when the egg cracked open, so
That's
to
true.
speak. So to speak. So here, we'll send you the messages. Your mail will be waiting for you. Just go. Off you go. Off you go. Go to someone who you might find to be more credible. Maybe you'll listen to them in a
That's
way that
true.
you've been unable to hear it from us.
That's true.